Welcome into Weather Underground on this Tuesday evening. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Alex Wilson. Our big story tonight, Winter Storm Helena. This storm is going to bring feet of snow to the west, and it's also something we're closely watching across the state. Pleasant, we thank you so much for your time. I know a busy time in the office for you guys as you prep and continue to watch that forecast. But one thing that I think a lot of people would be maybe surprised about, I know sometimes when people come to the area, they go, wow, I didn't realize the south was so hilly.
Right.
And that causes a lot of problems when you actually get the wintry weather.
Can be a huge deal, and I think a lot of people forget that when you have roads that go up and down, that makes them so dangerous, especially when you're trying to go uphill and you are just spinning your wheels. When you go downhill, you're
trying to stop, and
right?
yeah, gravity takes over, and that ice isn't allowing you to do anything, and that's where then the problems get started.
Exactly. You get jackknife trucks, you get cars that spin out, the whole deal. So a place like Atlanta, look at your topography. We do a cross section here on I-75. Look how it goes up and down and up and down and up. You're all over the place, right? Take a look at a place like Charlotte. We just talked to the folks there in Charlotte. This is topography along I-77 from south of town, 20 miles then to the north of town. And look at this. You're up, you're down, you're all over the place. You're not getting any steadiness to this whatsoever. Believe it or not, there's an elevation change, total elevation change up and down here of about 3,200 feet over just 20 miles.
Yeah.
So that gives you some indication from one side of town to the next how many times you're going to go up and down just on I-77.
Yeah, so all those ups and downs, as we say, lead to no stops or I can't get up the hill. That backs everything up. More accidents, more nightmares. That's why you understand this is a big deal for the South.
Just one more factor, right? It gets complicated for sure. Well, a lot more to come on the show this evening. Welcome back, everyone, to Weather Underground. One of the big stories we'll follow the next several days is Winter Storm Helena and what potential impacts it could have on the South, right? Joined again by our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle. Tom, you know, one thing we rely on so heavily, the computer models, to give us some guidance as to what's going to end up happening. If our reliable computer models are in disagreement, then we have a hard time figuring out what the forecast is going to be. And nowhere is it more pressing than in the South.
And very, very subtle changes.
It's such a challenge. And then when you have the two models, as Mike mentioned, in total disagreement, we have to really say, all right, you say you have two people giving you advice. I trust you and I trust you, and you're saying it's left, you're saying it's right, and I'm kind of, it leads to a much more complicated and variable.
People want so many details because there's so many issues that happen across the South. So subtle changes north or south with a low, subtle changes in the development of a high or a low makes a difference.
That's correct. And so there's a number of models we can look at. And in fact, there's an interesting way that we use our models these days. We talked about this time and time again, and it has to do with this term here, right, Alex?
Right. Ensemble. Because we talk about the GFS, we talk about the Euro, but there's a lot more than just the one.
So what modelers have done is they've taken the GFS model and they've initialized it, started it off just a tiny bit differently, and they've actually taken 23 team members with just little differences in the initialization of the model, and they've run it out. All 23 members give their own solution to the model. When we find running these ensembles of all these team members, if the team members cluster around one solution, there's better confidence that that's probably what is going to happen, rather than just relying on one model. So what we have here is a forecast of snowfall for Atlanta. There's the snowfall amounts there going up to about 2 inches, not much. And this is the time frame here, Friday evening going in through Saturday. Every one of these are referred to as plumes. Every one of these is a different team member. They all start out at 0 here, but as we get into that Friday night time frame, all of a sudden they begin to produce snowfall. Now, many of these models are all showing somewhere in the range of a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of snow, but some of them are showing as much as 2 inches. Look at the spread in the model solutions here right now.
We've got, what, maybe 5/100ths of an inch of snow all the way up to 2 inches of snow.
And what is happening is this red line here is the consensus of most of the model members right here. And it's showing that Atlanta, based on this particular GFS ensemble model, is probably going to get somewhere in the range of a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of snowfall. But this is one of the ways that we will look at the probabilities of how much snow might occur. In this case, it's a very low probability, but a couple of our models are showing over an inch of snow here.
Yeah.
And again, for Atlanta, an inch of snow can mean the whole world.
Right, and at least we do see that confidence in the time frame. So you get an idea too on time frame and then confidence of amount of snow. But ensemble, just another thing we use.
Good way to look at the modeling, yes.
All right, one heck of a football team. Off, and I have a feeling I know what a lot of the questions are about tonight.
Winter weather, maybe?
Could be.
Well, not my job. Oscillation.
That's correct. Out of Helena, but not everything is there. So
Yeah.
it's not going to track right up the Atlantic coast. It's not going to be a bombing nor'easter storm, but it's darn close.
Okay.
Very perfect.
Boy, it'd be fun if it was, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Hey, by the way, tonight